Hi, I'm Jeff Bermudez.
And I'm Omar Kadri.
Welcome to The Collective Journey.
Join us as we explore some of the most promising talents, thought leaders, and change influencers in our city and beyond.
As we uncover these hidden gems, I hope you'll find that they're people just like you and I, with hopes and dreams and gifts that they would like to show to the world.
It is our mission to share their work, to share their story, and to appreciate what our community is capable of producing.
This is my adventure.
This is your adventure.
This is our collective journey. Welcome to another episode of The Collective Journey. Today we talk about the sweet science. Boxing is one of the oldest sports around and is inhabited by men and women alike that consider themselves fighters. Our guest today is Abdul Jouda, a local-based fighter from London, Ontario, and he is every bit a fighter as you'll find. His fights don't just occur in the ring, however. He has had to overcome struggles growing up and with a weight of emotional loss. Join us as we speak to one of our most exciting guests thus far, Abdul Jouda.
All right, where were you born?
I was born in Palestine.
Okay.
Yeah.
How how long were you there before you moved out?
I think 9 years old. I would want to say I moved out in 2002. That was the year. That was because I know we wanted to leave earlier, but 2002 was the year we left.
Okay. Did you guys all kind of gradually go little by little, or your family?
No, we all
left
went
at once?
went together. Yeah, all us
That's
at
amazing.
once. Yeah, it
That's
was
amazing.
nice.
That's amazing. It's a lot. That's a lot more work than than people understand, I think.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I was young, so I didn't really know about that. But even now, it's still hard to go back home because of what's going on. So
Exactly. Yeah, that's true.
Have you ever been back since?
no, I wanted to go back, but my younger brothers and my mom went back, and they almost got stuck there. But no, I wish to go back. That's all my family and my family's there. So
Okay. Well, let's get to the exciting part. So you're a boxer.
Yep.
And how old are you right now?
I'm 22 years old.
Okay, and when did you start boxing?
I want to say 15.
15 years old.
Yeah, 15 years old. But I would, yeah, 15 years old. Yeah, just turned 16. It was between that age. So.
Okay, so
Yeah.
about 7-8 years of experience right there.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. Are you pro right now, or are you still in the amateur ranks at this time?
I'm still an amateur in the ranks right now.
Okay, and for the listeners out there, amateur boxing means that he does it and he doesn't get paid for it, and there's slight rule differences, in length of rounds, I believe.
No, length
No?
of rounds are still the same.
Still the same.
It's just the amount of rounds that you fight.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you get headgear?
For some fights, yeah. So like a national level or even provincial level, sometimes they'll be like, hey, no headgear for this fight if you want. You can choose. I prefer no headgear. That's what I way prefer than headgear, because they get in the way sometimes, and I want to hit the guy a nice shot. So
Okay.
yeah.
And so it's the standard 3-minute round.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, and how many do you get? What is the most? What is the highest amount of rounds that you can get in an amateur fight?
Three rounds.
3 rounds. Okay, so I heard somewhere that in amateur boxing they really go after it because they don't have a lot of time. You know how when it's a 36-minute fight, 12 3-minute rounds, you get to feel it out. You get to take a couple rounds to figure the person out. When it's 3, you got to go for it. You got to hurt the guy and really get the points in there.
Yeah, you have no time to take time. You need to go for it, and if you don't, that's where you're gonna miss out on. So that's one thing that's very different about amateur boxing that compare the pros. It's where the pros are they're really calm and collect, which I try to be as well. But it's hard to do that when you only have 3 rounds. So if you lose the first one, well, you gotta win the next 2 to win the fight. So that's how it works. Yeah.
Yeah, you know how Floyd Mayweather does that, right? It makes you think the guy has a chance, but he's just he's snoozing for 1 round, figuring you out, and then around round 4, he's figured you out, and you're not hitting him after that.
Yeah, it's called collecting data. That's what it is. He just collects data on the fighter to figure out his weaknesses and establish.
Are you an orthodox or southpaw stance?
That's a great question. I actually switch, so I could do
Switch.
both, but I would say I'm better right now at orthodox.
Orthodox. Okay.
Yeah.
Are you naturally right-handed?
Yeah, I'm naturally right-handed. Yeah,
Okay, cool. And do you ever plan to go professional?
100%. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Okay. When do you plan to do that?
After like some more amateur experience, I want to get more competition in the amateur, more fights at least, and then go out for the pros. I want to get at least like 80, 90, 100, or yeah, around that amount of fights in the amateur level, and then from there just go pro.
Like 80, 90 amateur fights?
Yeah, at least, yeah.
How many do you have under your belt now?
30 plus, like around, like I don't know the exact number because like you fight so often, so you don't really know, but I think it's like around 30 something. I have to check my book.
Oh, that's a decent amount.
Yeah.
You got a long way to go.
Yeah.
I remember there was this one Vin Diesel movie I watched.
Yeah.
And he says like this line where it's like 500 fights. That's like how many you have to be in before like you're considered a legitimate tough guy.
500 fights?
500.
It depends.
What movie was this?
I think it was called Knockaround Guys.
Knockaround Guys.
Oh.
He's like it was like a street fight though.
Yeah, those are street fights. They don't count.
The Olympic boxers don't even get. They're lucky if they get to like 200.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, fighting is a lot of
Yeah.
like it's a lot to take in for like for like a person's body, right? Like it's like somebody who's in like hundreds of fights, like.
Yeah,
well,
man.
Well, if you think about it, 30 fights since you were like 15. How often can you pick up fights?
So like, I tried to be more active beginning in, like just starting. It was tough because I was in a different organization. It's called OBA. It's not around anymore. It's closed down. There's a big lawsuit that happened. I don't want to get into it too much, but you can look it up.
What does that stand for? OBA?
Ontario Boxing Association, and there is 2 different organizations in Ontario. I'll give you some more insight about it. So there's 2 of them, and OBA is the one that closed down. Basically now it's just Boxing Ontario, and I've moved there. Ever since I've moved there, like I've been getting a lot more competitive fights as well as more active fights. With the OBA, like I fought like once or twice a year, and I would hope to get more fights. But now in Boxing Ontario, there's a bunch of fights, and like I can actually engage competition, which is what I want. So.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. How did you develop like an interest in boxing? What kind of like got you into it?
Well, like I mean, I come from a family of fighters. Like when you like I have 8 brothers. For you guys don't know, like I have 8. There's 8 boys in total in the house. There's 6 of us. Oh, sorry, 8. I'm number 6, and basically we fight each other for like everything. Basically, like growing up, man. Like you can imagine if you have a brother or anything like that, you can imagine like that's toss like the energy that you have in the house. Like you want to fight each other. So
like
ever since
who gets to use the TV, who gets the comfy spot on the couch.
Yeah, exactly. Who gets everything? Gets the food.
Who gets the last piece?
Yeah, you want to fight for everything, especially growing up. Like I'd fight with my brothers, and that's how I grew up. So
of 6 brothers, how many boxers are there? All of them?
No, 8 brothers. I'm number 6, and I mean like official that boxed. I would say there's like 3 of us.
Okay,
but I took it more seriously.
One of them's here in the studio with us.
Say what's up.
Say what's up. You can speak into the mic if you want.
It was good. All right. So how many fights have you had this year, for example?
2018. I need to count.
You need to count. That's a lot then.
Yeah, I'd probably like maybe let's say like 10 or something like that. Not that much. Yeah.
That's like a third of what you have so far. That's
I was more active the past 3 years, like I mentioned, because I switched to Boxing Ontario, so I was trying to be more active.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I watch a lot of combat sports, and there's always there's kind of a dilemma. There is a dilemma of choice, so to speak. So is it better to space out your fights so you get to recover and train a lot in between, or is it good to keep active and keep fighting so that you're always in shape and you're used to getting hit and you're constantly peaking? Which one? Obviously, you're an amateur, so you're an amateur right now when it comes to like length of rounds and a rule set. So what do you think favors an amateur schedule?
Yeah, I was just telling Omar about this before this. So basically, like it depends on how you fight, and depends on like the kind of style that you have. If you're getting hit every single round, you're getting hit hard in a fight. You don't want to fight the next week or the next day, right? Yeah. You want to make sure to space out, take your time that you need. But if you're not, if your style is like more of a boxer style, which I think I would say I have right now, so I try not to get hit. Like Floyd doesn't get hit so much. That's why he's been in the game for so long, right? You don't want to be coming out with like bloody eye or like just something like bruised up. So you always want to be active as well. But I mean, I try to take it fight by fight. So if I end up getting hurt with one fight, I'll just take a break, and then if I look good, like for example for my last fight, like I felt like I didn't take that much damage, so I want to fight next week, going forward. So
Okay.
yeah.
So you've had like a few fights where you take about a week to recover. So like you've sorry, let me rephrase that. You've like the shortest amount of time like that you've taken between fights. How long?
Like in terms of training or fighting?
Like what's the smallest amount of time in between two fights you've ever seen? Like have you like fought like 1 week later? Like taking a week to
Okay,
recover?
hold up, because there's tournaments that we have, and like
Yeah.
you can fight 3 or 4 days in a row, and I've done that. Like you can fight
Oh,
3
wow.
days in a row, and like you hurt, yeah, you gonna fight the next day. And like one time my rib was hurting, I guess a tough guy in a Brampton Cup, and I had to fight the next day. And like there's no other choice. You have to fight, right? Or else you'll take your
Yeah.
spot gets taken away. So, I mean, like tough luck, heal up afterwards. But I mean, it's for the amateurs, like you got to get it done. So
Ever done like a multi-fight tournament in one night?
no, there's no
No.
such thing to
No
legal.
such thing in
Yeah,
boxing.
yeah, you
Okay.
can't have that.
Because they do that in kickboxing.
Yeah, and even wrestling, like in wrestling, when I did wrestling, like, you'd have like 4 matches in one night. I'm just like, this is so much.
And you wake up the same day too, or like the day before.
Yeah,
Something crazy like that.
yeah.
Where do you train currently?
Boomers Warriors Boxing Club.
Okay, and is that's the one that's downtown, right beside the escape room?
No, that one's called Boomers Boxing Club.
Oh, okay.
They did a merger with Warriors Boxing Club,
Oh, okay.
and now they're located in Adelaide in London, Ontario. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Okay, that's cool. You were telling me like before that before getting into boxing, you actually started with wrestling.
Yeah, so the story behind that was so basically this is how I started getting to boxing. Like
Yeah.
I was always a fighter. I just wanted to be involved. In high school I had all this energy, right? So and I did wrestling, and doing wrestling, there was the year that actually basically what happened is that the teachers went on strike.
Yeah.
So this basically the wrestling stopped for that season, okay? And I had all this energy left over. I'm just like, I gotta go do something with my energy. So my brother's like, hey, go boxing. Like, let me take you to this gym. And I went. And I went to the gym. And right when I found out how to get there and, what I need to, like, I just fell in love with it. So I just started going every single day. And I just fell in love with the sport, man.
Did you never touch wrestling after that?
I tried to.
Yeah.
I try to balance like boxing and wrestling out. They're kind of it's tough because like let's say you get injured from one, it affects the way you perform in the other one, right? So I ended up coming where I gave myself a choice. Like I just this one or like wrestling or boxing, and I ended up choosing boxing overall. But needless to say, like after I'm done with boxing, I'm definitely gonna try to like be involved in wrestling and other sports as well. Like I'm not gonna limit myself to just boxing.
Have you? Well, I think there would be, but do you find that there was a benefit having done wrestling before? Because it's one of the most soul-crushing sports. It's a lot of work. Like no one comes there because it's fun. Like I can see soccer practice being fun, like you're kicking the ball and you're having fun with your friends. But wrestling's not. You're gonna like be close to death and like be, thirsty and like doing all these drills.
Yeah, I would say like comparing them both, like they're equally like, if not, I think boxing's a little bit tougher, but like no shame to wrestlers. Like I wrestled myself and I know how tough it is, and like going into like wrestling and then transitioning into boxing, like tough sport and tougher sport, it's like it just warmed me up into boxing. So like I love that toughness. You want to go into a sport where like you're gonna be challenged mentally, like technical wise and physically as well. So that's what brings you. That's what draws so much attention to the sport.
Quick question: what's your favorite takedown in wrestling?
Probably like a double.
Double,
leg,
like,
yeah.
just power double.
Yeah, because like I remember one time I didn't really know like technique that much, so like I picked the dude up and I think I have it on my Instagram. Like I just slam him down, and it was so fun just to do it. Yeah.
What was it like preparing and like going through your first boxing match? Like, can you tell us a little bit about that and like the experience behind that?
Yeah, for sure. So I felt like I was very prepared. Reason being is because the guys I was like sparring and training with were like very, very like they were like competitive.
Yeah.
And they were good. Like I'll be honest, like they were good guys, and like it was my first fight, and I'm just like, okay, like sparred and trained with these guys, and I know damn well I could do well in this fight. So, because I've trained with such good people, right? It's like you getting training with the top guy, like you getting sparring with Mayweather, and then like going into like an amateur match. That's how I felt in my head. I know it wasn't like that, but that's how I felt in my head. Going in, I was like, okay, like I'm good. I'm more than well like conditioned for it, and nothing could set me back. And I performed at it was actually my first fight was in London, at the Hilton Hotel in Wellington, and it was a tournament. Yeah, and I ended up winning the tournament. It was really fun.
So you won your first match.
Yeah,
like
I won my
you
first.
You won your first tournament.
His first matches.
Yeah, my first match was in a tournament. Yeah,
Oh.
it was cool. Yeah, my coach he wasn't as confident as I was in me, because like I was still beginning. I didn't look that good compared to the other guys, but I still like outperformed.
What year was this tournament?
2013. 2013. Yeah, long time ago.
So you were like 17 when this tournament happened.
Yeah, I
Around that
turned
age.
17. Yeah.
That's like 2 years. That's 2 years in. That's impressive.
Yeah, that's pretty good. That sounds like a great first experience, right?
Yeah, it was really good. It was really good.
How long was that like build up the training session from when you started to when you actually fought? Like how long did you train for?
I'm really bad with time, but I would say it was like around like a little bit over 6 months or something like that, just training on. Yeah.
Okay.
Can you now this will be a little bit of like a visualization, but a lot of our listeners are not, I wouldn't say they're familiar with the experience of fighting. And you said that you took about a few months to prepare for this. Can you walk us through what that's like? You know, like knowing that your opponent has been booked and that there's a date and time for you to fight. That's nerve-wracking, man, because you know it's coming and it's there. You're both excited and ready to go, but you know violence is about to come. So walk us through like the emotions and that feeling of knowing that you're going to be entering this controlled chaos in like a few months or a few weeks time.
I mean, like beginning, like I would definitely agree. That's a great question. Like beginning with like fighting.
Yeah.
That's definitely something to think about. Like when you first like fight and you see a name on like the list of the opponent you're fighting, and it's like, oh, like I'm fighting this guy. I've heard so much about him, like all this, and like, you know, but you always want to just draw it back and just, you know, think of a plan. Because whenever you want to do something, you want to have a plan behind it. And that's where, like, me and my coach come in. Like, okay, let's think of a plan. Let's do something that, you know, it's going to work and do the most effective strategic, you know, strategy for this fight. And that's what I just try to focus on, like, throughout the whole training towards that fight. I don't try to, like, focus on, like, the negatives. I just try to focus on the positives and what I can do. And what I do well, and you know, establish that in the training, and just perform the way I always perform.
Okay. What was that feeling like when you finally came out for your first fight?
Oh man, I was so excited. I was like, I've trained so hard for this. It was like
no nerves.
No, man, you're always gonna have nerves. Like it was just.
I just realized you got gum.
Okay, you're always gonna have nerves going into anything, like especially even sparring. Like sometimes I'm just like butterflies, this guy's good, you know, like don't get me wrong, you can get like hurt. Like you've like I've been in sparring sessions where I get beat up, you know, like that's how you get better. Like you're not gonna beat everybody you meet in the ring. Like, honest, like, you know, I'm sure the greats have gotten beat up before as well. That's how you get better. That's how you work on, you know, what you need to do the next time you meet them.
I also have a question about sparring then, because you mentioned like, you know, getting beat up. Do you guys have a rule how hard you go? Because you don't want to be knocked out heading into a fight. So how do you space that out? Because obviously it's good to get the sparring in, so you get that real live drill and experience. But you also don't want to damage yourself too much for the fight. So how do you balance that? Yeah,
for sure. There isn't like a set percentage of what I do. Like people like beginners will be like, oh, let's do like 50%, 40%, where you'll see them like try to knock the other guy out. All I do is just I give what I take, and that's what I try. Like with more like experienced sparring, I try to get sparring in with guys who like have more fights than me, so I could learn more, because usually they know more, right? And like if they have more experience, so that way I could learn. I always want to be in a position where I learn, and then like. They usually don't want to take your head off, and if they do, I know, I believe in myself that I could, you know, hold my own. So
it's good to have the experience, guys, because like if it's someone new, they're like they could be just nervous and they're like trying to defend
Yeah.
themselves, or sometimes they have a chip on their shoulder. They're like, oh, I know this guy's a boxer. I'm gonna get him.
Yeah.
So you want to get a more experienced guy because they don't kind of have that ego or a chip on their shoulder. So
Exactly. That's exactly it.
another question: How often do finishes happen in boxing, or do most of them go to decision? Because it's just 3 rounds, right?
Honestly, in amateur boxing, not boxing. In amateur boxing, not that often.
Not that often,
But in
yeah.
professional boxing, like, yeah, because you don't have the headgear and like also the weight of the gloves. In amateur boxing, the weight of your gloves is much higher than it is in professional boxing.
So it's like that's more of like a safety for people. Like
Exactly,
it's
yeah.
It basically, the heavier weighted glove is safer to be punched with.
Exactly, that's exactly it. Yeah,
Okay.
Because
That
there's
makes
more.
sense.
Is it because there's more padding?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So your punch is gonna have less effect.
Also, when it's bigger, you get to cover your head that
Yeah.
much. That's why in MMA they get knocked out much easier because there's not much cover.
So it's like less offense, more defense. Therefore, like no like knockouts or anything like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Now you were talking a little bit about like preparing for the fight and like knowing your opponent.
Mm.
Do you spend a lot of time like actively studying your opponents, or is that more of something like your coach does and you kind of just listen to his techniques?
Yeah.
Like, how does that work?
Do you watch film of your opponents a lot?
Some fights I do. It's harder to watch films in amateur boxing because you have so many people like that you could be fighting.
Yeah.
And if you focus on one guy, like, for example, like I just fought this dude and he just recently went pro, and there's no sense of me just watching film on him if he just went pro the next thing, right? So in amateur boxing's different, and you don't like. I don't do that myself. My coach would do that. My coach would watch the film, and then from there, we work on the game plan of his weaknesses, and like if we think he's a threat, right? Like if we think we could potentially fight this dude,
Yeah.
then we would just work on a game plan, and that's what I would focus on. That's what I would try my attention. 100% of my attention is to just focus on the game plan that my coach and I made.
That's really interesting.
Are you familiar with the? Well, you probably are more than us, but for the listeners, I'm not gonna assume that they, dive deep into boxing. But there's like the classical archetypes of boxing. There's like boxer, pressure fighter,
Yeah.
boxer puncher. Which one would you classify yourself as?
I don't know. I don't want to put myself in a category because I can do all that above.
Where are you most comfortable?
Boxing. I like making the guy look bad.
Yeah.
That's what I like to do. I like to show you that I can outbox you.
Like all the way in or all the way out. Like you don't want to
Yeah.
get into mixing up. You want to hit and not get hit.
Yeah, but I mean, like I can go in the inside too. Like I can, I've been working on that as well. Like I want to do it all. So
Yeah.
you don't want to be in a position where like you're uncomfortable in boxing because there's no room. Like it's a square ring, right? You don't want to be in that ring just in a position where you don't know, because if you are, that's where you're gonna get hurt. So.
Do you have a favorite technique? Like, what's your signature punch?
No, man, this is not an anime. You don't have like one go-to like Goku move or something like that.
No, but you know how
you work on that.
So, do you have like a technique that you like going to, or it just feels good like getting them with it?
I'll be honest. I'm boring. I love my jab. That's one
okay.
thing. Like I love, and I can still continue to work on my jab because that's what sets everything out. And if you have a good jab, you can make it a lot.
Okay, perfect.
And a good jab, I imagine, can get you lots of points in boxing, right?
Yeah,
'Cause
yeah,
jabs are like
exactly.
a lot quicker, and like if you're playing more strategic, then
Exactly.
that's definitely something good to
Yeah.
develop, I guess. You were telling me earlier about like your relationships with your coaches, or you've been through a few coaches. Like,
Yeah.
can you talk to us a little bit about like your relationship with them and how they've helped you come this far?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. So I have multiple coaches.
Okay.
Um,
Who was your very first coach?
So my first fair coach is called Lawrence Boone. He passed away last year. Rest in peace. He passed away. Basically, like when I started off boxing, this dude like he took me in.
Yeah.
And right away, like he took like he took a father figure role, and he's always there for me, like just going through puberty and like all this stuff. I'm just maturing as a man. Like anytime like I had a question about something else outside of boxing, he was there for me to answer that. And also through boxing, like he would like I couldn't afford it going in because I come from a big family, right? Like it's hard for your parents to just afford boxing and all these kind of sports and activities hobbies for when you have a big family, 8 boys who all want to do that, right?
Yeah.
So he basically took me in and he's like, hey, like, you don't gotta worry about that. You just focus on boxing and, you know, and just fighting, and I'll take care of that. So, you know, shout out to him 100% for that. You know, there's a lot of good people out there, and he's definitely one of the good people that helped me towards these goals.
You said his name was Lawrence Boom. Like, I'm assuming he's the guy that Boomers is named after.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Okay.
and also, you know, he's been around for a while, and he's recognized in the Ontario boxing scene.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, I just fought. My last show was actually called. It was a memorial for him. You know, my last show was for him, and it was great to fight for him. And then also there's other awards named after him, and he gets a lot of recognition. Just search him up, Lawrence Boom.
Well, you mentioned that he passed away. If it's okay to talk about, how do you find that his passing affected you? Because obviously you're doing quite well right now. How did you deal with that?
Obviously it wasn't easy. Like he passed away right after my dad passed away, so it was you know, a couple months in between that when he passed away, and it was tough, like, because this is like it was different going to boxing gym, because like especially in that Boomers boxing club, it was like, oh, like I could feel him, like they're looking at me, like when I'm sparring, when I'm hitting the bag, you could still like imagine him just being there, being in his old like in his office in the gym, and you can just feel his presence there. And even now when I go to fights, like I feel him in my corner, like wherever I go, like I'm still repping his name, so I'm keeping his legacy alive, and that's what I'm still trying to do, like keep his legacy alive. I don't want to get away from that. I want to be proud of it, and that I am right now. And he was there for me after my dad passed away as well. They both passed away of cancer too. So
sorry to hear that. Rest in peace.
Thanks. Yeah, shout out to anybody who's going through that. So
who's your coach now?
So I have multiple coaches. I have Lawrence Boom was my first one. I got Kyle Millette, who's you know, we've been going strong 3 years, and then I also started off with Dennis. He's really cool, as well as Rob. Yeah.
What's it like having so many coaches? Like, that seems like it could be like a little bit, I don't know, maybe confusing. Like, are they all very like specialized in different fields, or like do you guys like kind of like meet up all together in the same room, or is it you go see them individually?
I mean like starting out, it was like that. It was like I had different coaches, and it's more opinions, right? Like it's more educated opinions that can help you towards your technique and like what you can work on. But I would say right now, like as of right now, the past 3 years, it was just mainly Kyle that I work on and work with. But like the more coaches, the better it is, in case like one of them gets sick, or you know, like I mentioned before, like an opinion. So
thank you for tuning in to another episode of the show. That's all the time that we have for this week. But join us again next episode as we conclude our conversation with this week's guest. If you or somebody you know would like to be on the show, hit us up on any of our social media. We are Collective Journey on Facebook. We are Collective Journey on YouTube. We are Collective_Journey on Instagram. And always remember, this is not just my adventure, but it's yours as well. This is our Collective